Hello, everybody. I'm Robert Franz, Artistic Director of the Boise Baroque Orchestra, and this is Ask Robert question number 12. Why is it important to involve high school students in the process of using Baroque bows? So let me first off explain that when we purchased our new Baroque bows for the Boise Baroque Orchestra during this season, the 2019-2020 season, there were two reasons for doing it. One was that we wanted to reach into history and see if we could get a more accurate sound of what the composer was expecting with these Baroque bows. But secondly, it was really important to us from the very onset to get a second set of bows that we could use and teach high school students and college-age students, university-age students, how to use these bows. You see, when a young string player starts out, they usually start out playing some Baroque music of Vivaldi or Bach or Handel. This is quite often because it's music that is not in extreme range and can be sort of taken out in small bite-sized chunks. A lot of the Suzuki method is based on using Baroque pieces. Usually, though, at the very start, it's all about learning hand position and bow position and how to put the sound together. It's not so much about what kind of style came from the 17th century and the 18th century and the 19th century and the 20th century. So students need a good many years to sort of develop that skill with the modern bow and just learn how to make a sound and how to get around on the instrument. Once they get to a certain point, then there's some flexibility in how the learning process occurs. And so what we found is that when we start working with high school students that are a little bit more advanced and university students, of course, who are much more advanced, they can take their modern bow, lay it aside, and pick up a Baroque bow. And by using a slightly different hold, a slightly different pressure, a slightly different bow speed, it helps them to understand a little bit more about where the composers of the Baroque were coming from. If they didn't have a really strong background in using the modern bow, it would be difficult to switch to a different bow and know what the difference is. So you have to wait for a certain place or certain part in the educational process before you can insert the use of this new style and this new bow. So, having said that, we received funding for a second set of bows, and now each year at the Boise Baroque Orchestra, we'll be performing with one or two student groups, one piece in a side-by-side situation where the students will sit side by side with a professional using a similar bow to the ones that the professionals are using and learn from those professionals what the differences are in the bow stroke. Now, here's the really cool thing about this. After you've developed your ability on a modern bow to create a beautiful sound, a beautiful sustained sound, and then you switch over to a Baroque bow, and it's not about sustaining the sound anymore, it's about clarity and cleanliness and lightness of sound and speed of the bow. Once you start using those elements, what happens is that you can then transfer some of those skills into your use of the modern bow, which, by the way, gives string players more options, more colors, more ways of creating different sounds. The two different bows inform each other. So it's a really important part of the educational process, and that's why we are thrilled at the Boise Baroque Orchestra that we have two sets so that we can share those skills with our younger colleagues.